My name is Jason Merrill. I'm 35 years old, and until 2 years ago, I believed in loyalty. In blood. In the kind of family bond that movies talk about. The kind where people might fight, but they never turn on each other. I grew up thinking honor was inherited like eye color. Turns out, it's not. My father, Harold Merrill, was a builder, not just of homes, but of reputation, community, and legacy. He started Merrill Contracting when he was 24, with nothing but a used truck and a toolbox. For 37 years, he built structures that outlived him. Homes, hospitals, fire stations, you name it. More importantly, he built a name that meant something. If Harold's name is on it, you can trust it, people used to say. That meant more to him than profit. And I swore I'd carry that name forward. I was the one who worked beside him since I was 15. I took the early shifts, managed the crews, climbed on freezing rooftops while others made excuses. But family businesses are rarely just about business. There's always ego, old grudges, and people who want more than they've earned. My younger brother Mark was one of them, charismatic, flashy, and reckless. And then there was my Uncle Roy, my dad's only sibling. He handled the books and kept himself wrapped in silk ties and secrets. When my dad got sick, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, everything began to shift. Roy started showing up more, whispering about succession planning, estate protection, and restructuring. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was too busy taking care of my father, driving him to chemo, managing the jobs he couldn't visit anymore. On his worst days, I fed him soup. On his good days, we talked about the future. My future with the company. "You've earned this, Jason," he told me once, gripping my wrist. "You've always been the one who showed up. They might talk, but you build." What I didn't know was that behind the scenes, Roy had my father signing documents he didn't understand, legalese wrapped in soothing lies. Mark stood by, nodding, smiling, pretending to care. I found out later that many of those papers were signed while my dad was heavily medicated. He passed quietly in early spring. Snow was still on the ground. His funeral was simple, just how he wanted. And while I mourned, Roy and Mark moved fast. Too fast. A week later, they called a family business meeting. When I arrived, a lawyer I'd never met was already there. On the table, a new will. I skimmed the first few lines and felt my pulse slow, then spike. Merrill Contracting, the business my dad built with his own hands, had been signed over to Roy and Mark, fully, legally. My name wasn't mentioned once. "I don't understand," I said, my voice raw. "He said you were too soft," Roy said, not even flinching. "Too emotional. Business needs vision now, not nostalgia." Mark just smirked. "You were the worker. We're the leaders now." I walked out of that office and stood in the parking lot for 15 minutes, staring at the building like it was a tombstone. My father's name was still painted on the wall, but the soul of the company, the honesty, the backbone, had just been buried. And for the first time in my life, I understood why some people burn things down just to start over. But I didn't burn. I didn't yell. I didn't even file a lawsuit. I did what Roy never expected. I went quiet. I moved into a cheap apartment in the West End, sold my truck, took odd jobs under another name, and for 6 months, I planned. Not for revenge, but for correction, for justice, for reclamation. I registered a new company, Foundry Buildworks. The name was inspired by my grandfather's blacksmith shop, something my father loved. I didn't use the Merrill name. I didn't want them to see me coming. I called old contacts, not clients, people, vendors, masons, electricians, framers. People who respected my dad, not Roy's spreadsheets. I offered fair pay, honest deadlines, and coffee in real mugs, not paper ones. One by one, they joined me. The first project was a duplex renovation in East Toronto. Small, humble. We finished it a week early. The owner posted about it on Reddit. The thread went viral. These guys don't cut corners. They show up. They care. That one thread brought in 5 more clients. Within 4 months, we were booked out for the year. Has someone ever taken from you what you built with your soul? Stay quiet. Stay focused. And rebuild louder. Drop a hammer in the comments if you know the power of a silent comeback. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on Roy and Mark. Merrill Contracting was crumbling under its own weight. Roy had started shortcutting material quality. Mark was spending company money on Instagram ads and real estate he couldn't flip. Clients were complaining. Employees were quitting. Then came the mistake. They tried to steal one of my projects. A condo developer I had just signed got a better offer from Merrill Contracting. I let it go through, but not before slipping the developer every piece of evidence I had of Roy's previous job site violations. The condo deal collapsed. The developer sued. The bank started sniffing around. The company was bleeding. That's when I knew it was time. I approached their 3 biggest investors through a shell company, offered to buy their shares for 40% over market value. Fast, clean exit. They agreed. One by one, I became the majority stakeholder in the very company I was erased from. The day I walked into the Merrill office again, they looked stunned. Roy turned pale. Mark looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Surprise," I said, dropping the shareholder packet on the desk. "You'll find your names under terminated without severance." "You can't do this," Mark snapped. "I just did," I replied. "And by the way, the city knows everything. The unpaid permits, the corner cutting, even the ghost employees you've been using to inflate payroll." In the months that followed, I rebranded everything. The Merrill name was retired, buried with my father where it belonged. Foundry Buildworks became the new face of legacy construction. Clients trusted us. The city trusted us. I even got a letter of thanks from a firehouse we rebuilt after Roy left it half-finished. Mark moved to Vancouver trying to restart his brand. Roy disappeared. Rumor has it he left the country. I didn't care. Their stories were over. Mine had just begun. One evening, I visited my father's grave. I sat down with a flask and the original copy of the company's first invoice. It was dated 1984. "I kept your promise, Dad," I whispered. "I didn't just take it back. I made it better." Some stories don't need noise, just results. If they underestimated you, prove them wrong in silence. Comment, "I rebuilt from nothing." If this story hit home. Today, I still work on site some days, not because I have to, but because it reminds me where I came from. I shake every client's hand. I remember every name. I teach my crew the same rule my father taught me. Build things to last, even when people don't. This is more than revenge. It's restoration of a name, of a legacy, of me.